In the second year of my terminal illness, my girlfriend of 10 years vanished without a trace. When we met again, she was a huge star. She had made movies and found a soulmate. The only thing she'd forgotten was me. They supposedly fell in love on set. She fell for the cancer-stricken boy in the film at first sight. But she couldn't remember that the character of the boy with cancer was based on me. The boy in the movie didn't survive in the end, and outside the movie, neither will I. The traffic on the way to Isabella's concert was terrible. Security guards were managing the crowds, starting a mile from the Forum. I was crushed in the crowd, nearly passing out from lack of oxygen several times. The whole way, I clutched the necklace in my hand. The sharp points of the five-pointed star digging into my palm were the only thing keeping me conscious. Oh my God, Liam Carter is actually here. The girl next to me, a devoted fan of their on-screen romance, suddenly shrieked. As I quietly sang along, the concert was almost over. The last song was Isabella's biggest hit, the love song Lover. As the chorus began, Liam Carter appeared on the big screen in a white suit, standing with Isabella, who was in a white wedding gown, taking the entire audience's breath away. Liam smiled as he walked toward her. Watching the two of them look like newlyweds made my chest tighten. The next moment, Liam knelt on one knee in front of her and pulled a diamond ring from his pocket. Isabella's usually composed expression softened into a blush. When she looked at Liam, her eyes were filled with a sweetness and a gentleness that was almost unreal. His voice was soft, but it carried through the entire arena. Isabella, I told you I would propose when I finally made it. I've only ever loved one person in my entire life. Will you marry me? Isabella looked at him, her eyes misty with tears. Her hands pressed tightly over her mouth. It took a long moment before she could speak. Of course I will. With that, Isabella threw herself into Liam's arms. He lifted her effortlessly, spinning her around and around. In that instant, the roar of the crowd felt like it could tear the roof off the sky. The young girl next to me grabbed my arm in excitement. I love their movie Dead End Love so much. It was so moving. I'm so glad they got a happy ending in real life. But all I could think was, how could she say yes? How could she say yes without a flicker of doubt? How could she? I stumbled out of the crowd and ran to a tree outside the arena. Leaning against the trunk, I couldn't stop myself from retching until the world spun and my mind went numb. A security guard walked over with a bottle of water, startled by how pale my face was. You okay, kid? You don't look so good. Tears mixed with bile as I frantically wiped my mouth, my face flushed red. I'm fine. It was just a lie. I felt like I was dying of heartbreak. The guard didn't look convinced and stayed with me until I slowly pulled myself together. He finally said, trying to make a joke, "Hey, you're not one of those obsessive fans, are you? The kind who can't handle seeing his favorite star get engaged to someone else? You can't get that invested, son. She's got to have her own life, her own husband and kids someday. Don't get so lost in it that you can't find your way out." I held the water bottle, and even though it was a hot, muggy summer night, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't know how to explain. I didn't know how to tell him that I was the boyfriend Isabella had been with for 7 years, that I was the one who had promised to propose to her, that I was the only person she had ever loved. The guard looked at my pathetic state and sighed, about to say something else, but I let out a cry and threw up again. This time, the ground was splattered with bright red blood. I didn't get back to the hospital until the middle of the night. As I got out of the cab, I looked up and saw a slender figure in white standing under a dim streetlight, a black wheelchair parked in front of her. It was Chloe. I had no idea how long she'd been waiting, but she was tapping at her phone with a grim look on her face. The moment she saw me, she locked her phone and marched over, looking furious. We agreed on 3 hours. I covered for you with the department head, Dr. Miller. You broke your promise. I just stared at her, speechless. I must have looked terrible. Chloe stopped in front of me, her anger faltering. Your eyes are red, she asked instinctively. Have you been crying? Her question opened the floodgates of my grief. When I spoke, my voice was impossibly hoarse. I saw Isabella today. She's getting married. Chloe looked at me, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Chloe was the only person who knew about me and Isabella. During my illness, Isabella had disappeared a few times. The first time it happened, Chloe had scoffed. "You're in this condition, and you're still blinded by love. What if she left for good on purpose?" I argued back stubbornly. She wouldn't. Isabella's not like that. I know her. She would never leave me at a time like this. Chloe tapped her finger on my headboard, a cold, mocking smile on her lips. "This is the ICU, Davis. I've seen blood relatives turn on each other over money. What do you expect from a girlfriend?" I ignored her cynicism and just quietly took the medicine she handed me. Seeing my indifference, she shot me a look of annoyance before walking out. But the very next day, she had to eat her words. Just as dawn was breaking, a frantic knock on the door woke Chloe from her night shift. "I thought some homeless person had wandered into the hospital," she told me later. It was Isabella, wearing a faded t-shirt under a construction vest, her hair matted with dirt and dust. She looked at me through the ICU glass, then spoke to Chloe, embarrassed. "I've been working odd jobs the last few days to scrape together the money for his medical bills. I just paid them." Isabella pulled a few crumpled bills from her pocket, stammering slightly. "I have a little more on me, doctor. When I'm not here, please look after my Davis. We'll never be late with the payments." Chloe was silent for a moment before replying stiffly, "Don't worry. He's my first critical care patient. I have no intention of letting him die." Later, Chloe saw Isabella's name on the list for a clinical drug trial at the hospital. When she rushed to the lab, Isabella was already in line, waiting to have her blood drawn. Chloe grabbed her arm. "I've already applied for aid from the hospital's charity fund for Davis. You don't have to do this." Isabella looked up, her eyes unfocused and her lips pale. "They haven't paid me from the factory yet. I was afraid it wouldn't be enough." "It's enough." Chloe looked through Isabella's bag and found more than one application form for the trial. This wasn't the first time she had done this. Chloe dragged Isabella to my bedside, her face grim. She watched us cling to each other and cry, and then she laid into Isabella. "He's sick. If you collapse, who's going to take care of him?" I cupped Isabella's face in my hands, gently tracing the corners of her eyes with my thumb, trying to wipe away her sorrow. 2 straight weeks of intense labor had left her eyes bloodshot, but her gaze was fixed on me, so focused it was as if no one else in the world existed. I just wish I could be the one who's sick instead of him. For the first time, I lost control, and tears streamed down my face as I caressed her cheek. "I'm going to get better, I promised." Isabella promised Chloe she would stop earning money at the expense of her own health, and then she rushed off to another odd job. After she left, Chloe stood by my bed, silently looking at the peeled apple and the container of chicken soup Isabella had brought. I've always been a picky eater, and Isabella's cooking was the only thing that could get me to eat more. Since I got sick, my appetite was even worse. To keep me from losing too much weight from the chemo, she would come to the hospital even after working late into the night, borrowing the cafeteria kitchen to prepare my meal for the next day. I saw her nearly fall asleep on her feet more than once, and it broke my heart. I tried to tell her the hospital food was fine. Isabella would just look at me seriously and say, "Don't worry about me. I can only rest when I know you're okay." In the end, even Chloe had to admit it. "She's a good one. You're lucky." My nose was so stuffy that my voice came out as a harsh rasp. I could only unlock my phone and show Chloe the trending topics on Twitter. Several of them were marked with a dark red viral tag. Chloe tapped on the first video. Before she had a chance to turn down the volume, a familiar, clear voice, slightly distorted by the cheap phone speaker, filled the room. It was Isabella, her voice gentle and smiling. "As you all know, I suffered a head injury and lost a lot of my memories. For a while, it felt like I was living in a fog, just going through the motions every day, feeling like I was searching for something vital. It wasn't until I met Liam that I felt like I was real again." Chloe immediately closed Twitter. She leaned against the window and took a deep breath. "Maybe it's not her, Davis. Maybe you're mistaken. And she's not the same Isabella you knew. Just pretend that she died." I knew Chloe was just trying to help, but how could I be wrong? Isabella has a scar on her palm from a machine at one of her old jobs. And she has a mole on her neck in the exact same spot as mine. And that look in her eyes when she's completely devoted to the person she loves, I know it better than anything. A long time passed before my phone suddenly rang. Chloe glanced over as I answered, and I heard the voice of the screenwriter on the other end. Davis, how have you been feeling? I'm calling to thank you. Because of your story, our film won an award. The network wants to film a behind-the-scenes documentary. And the lead actor, Liam Carter, has been very eager to meet you. So tomorrow, the creative team and the network are coming to the hospital to visit. We've decided to donate all the proceeds from the documentary to your medical fund. Please don't say no, okay? The screenwriter for Dead End Love had once been a long-term patient at this very hospital. She suffered from severe depression and anxiety and would often just sit in a daze on a garden bench after taking her medication. Whenever I felt myself breaking down over Isabella's disappearance, I would hide from Chloe and sit out in that same garden for hours. Back then, I desperately needed someone to talk to. I just never imagined she would turn the story of a cancer patient who lost his love into a film with a hopeful, open ending. And I certainly never expected the lead actress to be Isabella, discovered by a talent scout after losing her memory in a car accident. Fate could be so cruel. I bit my lip, my mind reeling at the thought of seeing Isabella again. And with her, her fiancé, Liam Carter. The thought felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The screenwriter was still trying to persuade me, appealing to my emotions, but I wasn't listening. In the end, I just mumbled a quiet okay and hung up. Isabella and I were both orphans. We grew up depending on each other, and we'd never been apart for more than 3 days. But from the time she disappeared to when I saw her again on television, 3 years had passed. I just missed her so much. The next day, I waited by the window in my room. I don't know how much time passed before I saw a large group of people walking into the hospital. I turned, looking nervously at Chloe, and licked my dry lips. Do I look okay? The night before, she'd bought me a beanie with hair attached, gone to the department store to pick out a subtle lip tint for men, and even had one of the nurses help me with some foundation to even out my skin tone. That morning, Chloe had also brought a bouquet of fragrant jasmine and put in the vase by my bed. I asked her what they were for, and she looked away, a little flustered. Jasmine. They're just pretty, that's all. As I looked in the mirror and saw the color return to my usually ashen face, my eyes started to burn. Chloe watched me for a moment, then reached out to adjust the hair of the wig near my temple. Her voice was unusually gentle. You don't look strange at all. You look handsome. Don't be scared. We're here with you. As she finished speaking, her fingers still hovering an inch from my cheek, the door was suddenly pushed open. I scrambled back onto the bed in a panic as the crowd of people flooded in. It felt like a hand was squeezing my throat, cutting off my air. Chloe reacted instantly, helping me sit up on the bed with one hand while gently patting my back with the other. It took a few minutes for me to catch my breath, and when I did, I saw the camera's red recording light was already on. The screenwriter smiled. Davis, you and Dr. Reed are exactly as I remember. You haven't changed a bit. My eyes instinctively went to the two people standing behind her. Isabella and Liam Carter stood shoulder to shoulder. They weren't touching, but they shared an intimate bubble that no one else could penetrate. A small smile played on Liam's lips as he walked slowly to my bed. Hello, Davis. I wanted to meet you for a long time. I'm glad I finally got the chance. He was even more handsome in person, looking bright and clean in just a simple white t-shirt and jeans. He was so radiant that I felt ashamed and couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. If Liam was a sunflower in full bloom, then after years of fighting this disease, I wasn't even a withered weed. I was just the dirt beneath his feet, an eyesore. Liam put his arm around my shoulders like we were old friends. Davis, have you seen our movie? I kept my eyes downcast and answered quietly, many times. To get the role right, I spent 2 weeks observing patients in the oncology ward and dieted for just as long. Liam glanced at the bony wrist sticking out of my oversized sleeve and smiled. You probably can't understand how much I envied your metabolism back then. I felt a flush of shame and turned my head away, pulling my hand back under the blanket. I didn't want Isabella to see how skeletal I had become. Noticing my discomfort, Isabella moved to the other side of the bed. Hello, Davis. I'm Isabella. A few days ago, Liam and I went to a shrine and got a charm for good health. We hope you get well soon. When you're better, we'd love for you to come to our wedding." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, as if she were afraid of startling me. But her kindness just made the dull knife in my heart twist more painfully. My lips parted several times, wanting to tell her everything, but the words wouldn't come out. Isabella took a small, folded paper charm from her pocket. It looked like it had been kept perfectly flat, without a single crease. The screenwriter suddenly spoke up. "Davis, after I told Isabella your story, she donated her entire salary from the film to the hospital the very next day. This was while she was still in a lawsuit with her old agency, completely broke and millions in debt. The director and I both told her to take care of herself first, that she could help you later when she was more established. But she insisted. She said that every time she read the parts of the script about your character, her heart ached for you. And that's what allowed her to give such a powerful performance." Even the director added, "Isabella is a wonderful person. She was always good to everyone, which only made it harder to let her go." Isabella didn't deny it. She just looked at me and said, "Your story made my career. I should be thanking you." I was silent for a moment before I raised my hand. "Take it." Isabella pressed her lips together and gently placed the charm on the tray table in front of me. It was only when I saw the pity in her eyes that I realized my own hands were trembling. Liam spoke up unexpectedly. "Davis, when you and Dr. Reed get married, you'll have to invite us." I didn't understand what he meant. Liam continued, a wistful tone in his voice. "I was so moved when I first read the script that I accepted the role immediately. I was so envious of the relationship you and Dr. Reed have. I hoped that one day I could find a love that was so loyal and unwavering. I never thought I'd find someone like that, but thankfully, your story led me to Isabella. I heard you're a fan of Isabella, so I brought you an autograph picture." He took a photo from his assistant with a smile. It was a picture of him and Isabella together. In the photo, Isabella was making a silly face at the camera while Liam looked on, his eyes crinkled in a smile. He was leaning in as if he was about to kiss her cheek. Staring at the picture, I couldn't hear what Liam was saying anymore. There was just a loud, piercing roar in my ears. Chloe sensed something was wrong and pushed her way through, grabbing my wrist firmly. Her voice was louder now and cold. "I haven't seen your movie, and I don't understand your artistic license. Davis is my patient. I'd appreciate it if you didn't confuse fiction with reality. He needs to rest. If you're done, please wrap this up." Chloe looked past the camera at the screenwriter and director. "Are there any other questions?" The film crew exchanged glances before the host started asking some standard questions. The whole time, Isabella sat in a chair nearby, watching me intently, a thoughtful expression on her face. As the interview was ending, the host asked if I had any wishes. I summoned all my courage, met Isabella's eyes, and seeing the surprise in them, I said quietly, "I'd like to talk to her for a few minutes." Chloe cleared most of the crew out of the room, saying it was too crowded for a patient. Soon, only the cameraman, Isabella, and Liam were left. I looked at their intertwined hands, each word I spoke leaving me a little breathless. "Isabella, I've always wondered what it was like for you during the time you had amnesia. How did you manage?" Isabella seemed taken aback for a moment. "I woke up in a hospital. The first person I saw was a talent scout. He paid my medical bills, found me a place to live, and helped me get a new ID. But I couldn't remember anything about my past, so I just sort of dazedly signed a contract with his agency. For some reason, the only thought in my head back then was that I needed to make money. But I had terrible luck back then. I worked myself to the bone, taking any acting job, commercial, or show they threw at me, and my paycheck was only a few $100s a month. When I went to the agency, I found out they'd signed me to a 10-year contract. If I wanted to break it, I'd have to pay millions." Isabella gave a bitter laugh that made my heart ache. "That time was a nightmare. What does it feel like having amnesia? It feels like you're a person without a past. Everything and everyone is a stranger. Except sometimes in my dreams, I remember flashes of being in a hospital, and it feels like someone is always calling my name." Her words made my heart pound against my ribs. I opened my mouth, an overwhelming urge rising inside me. Isabella, the truth is Liam's eyes were locked on me. The moment I started to speak, he cut me off. Davis, I hear you're a big fan of Isabella's. You must be so happy for her, seeing how successful she's become. I froze, then slowly nodded. Isabella didn't seem to notice my panic. She looked lost in her own memories. She only snapped out of it when Liam gently put an arm around her. Isabella turned her head slightly to look at Liam, her gaze soft, a quiet, restrained love flowing in her eyes. Then I was cast in dead-end love. The director helped me get a lawyer to fight my old agency, and he even helped me find my birth parents. My life finally started to turn around after I met Liam. She looked back at me. I'd actually like to hear your story, too. You and Dr. Reed aren't a couple, are you? My story. My throat felt tight, and I didn't know how to begin telling her our story. My story was romanticized for the movie. The real version isn't very interesting. It's just that once, there was someone who loved me more than anything, and I loved her just as much. But then she disappeared. Isabella frowned. Have you tried to find her? She was an orphan, like me. The orphanage we grew up in closed down years ago, and the director retired and moved away. There's no one left who even remembers us. And since we were just dating, I couldn't file a missing persons report. I went to the police several times, but they just felt sorry for me and told me to be strong, that I'd meet someone else someday. I looked down, my nose stinging. But I know there will never be anyone better than her. The cameraman, sensing my emotional state, spoke up. You could tell us her name. We could help you find her. I said nothing. The urge to tell her the truth was a thorn in my throat, making my chest ache. I looked at Liam with his arm around Isabella's waist and at the look of pure, peaceful happiness on her face, a look that had nothing to do with acting. Liam chose that moment to intervene. Okay, let's not dwell on the past. From now on, there's only happiness. Isabella, I'll always be by your side. Davis, I hope you get well soon. If you need anything at all, just tell my assistant, and I'll take care of it. He turned to me, smiling. We're getting married soon. In a way, we met because of you. Can you give us your blessing? Liam's words forced me to swallow every unspoken truth, every broken piece of my heart. Meeting Isabella's concerned gaze, I had to take several ragged breaths before I could speak. I wish you both. I fought against the waves of suffocation that washed over me from my chest to my head and forced the words out with all my might. I wish you a life of peace and happiness, and may all your dreams come true. I love Isabella. I could never bring myself to wish her happiness with another man. After they left, I realized my mouth tasted of blood. I'd been so nervous I'd bit my tongue. Chloe came back into the room. She looked at me, a shadow of concern in her eyes. Why didn't you just tell her? I buried my face in the blanket. Being with me would only drag her down. She finally has a bright future. I can't be selfish enough to pull her back into this darkness with me. All I want is for her to be happy. That's enough. After the interview, I spent my days and nights watching Isabella's performances, her movies. My health got worse and worse. It got to the point where Chloe had to come to my room at 10 o'clock every night to take my phone away. Even without it, I'd lie awake until dawn. After several of my checkups, I saw Chloe frowning at my chart before taking it to consult with senior doctors and her old professors. The nurse who came to change my four would look at me with pity, and one day, she left a small bowl of washed cherries by my bed. Whenever I asked Chloe what was wrong, she would just tell me calmly that everything was fine and not to worry. But for the next few nights, the light in her office stayed on all night long. I once caught a glimpse of a paper she tried to hide from me, covered in dense medical jargon I couldn't understand. Seeing it, I felt a strange sense of calm. When I first got sick, I was terrified. I was so afraid of dying young, of leaving so many things undone. But now, death felt like it might be the best possible outcome. A month later, the network aired the finished documentary. I never expected to see my own name trending on Twitter. Hashtag Davis Hayes an imperfect ending. I clicked on the hashtag and saw that a popular influencer had created a viral video. They edited together clips of my life story and my interview quotes into a sort of farewell letter. It was so tragic that it blew up with some PR push behind it. Everyone was talking about how incredible Isabella's acting was. It was said the way I looked at her was so moving. It was as if I was seeing my lost love through her. And so, in the comments, people started a spontaneous search for the girl I talked about. I thought I'd been brief and restrained enough. But someone managed to figure out which hospital I was in. Then, someone who worked there claimed they remembered seeing a young woman who used to wait outside my room. I was terrified their curiosity would shatter the fragile peace I had left. More than anything, I was afraid Isabella would find out the truth. If she knew, she would be consumed by guilt for the rest of her life. I was already dying. I couldn't let her sacrifice her future for me. So I created a new account and left a comment on the network's post, asking everyone to stop searching. I said I didn't want to know anymore and that it didn't matter. I just hoped people would stop wasting their time on me. But my words only made people feel even more sorry for me. Finally, a photo surfaced online. It was just a blurry shot of a girl's back and a glimpse of her profile in a hospital hallway. A night shift nurse from my hospital had posted it on her private Twitter account with a caption. I've seen people walk out on their sick partners in these hallways without a second glance. But I've also seen someone stay by her boyfriend's bedside late into the night, never leaving his side. True love will always make me cry. Someone noticed that the girl's back looked familiar, like they'd seen it before. People started comparing the silhouette, digging for details, following every possible lead. Finally, in a promotional still for Dead End Love, they found a shot of Isabella standing in a hospital hallway. Her back looked identical. Then they found the profile shot. The young woman's face looked just like Isabella's. I deleted my Twitter account immediately, hoping to spend what little time I had left far away from the drama of the internet. Without telling Chloe, I went to the head of the department and told him I wanted to take a trip to clear my head. He was an older man with graying hair who pushed his glasses up his nose and looked at me kindly. Chloe told me she's determined to cure you. She even postponed a fellowship in Germany for you. She's my best student. With her working so hard, I really shouldn't let you go running off. But I think getting away for a bit might actually do you some good. And so, with an empty suitcase in hand and the SIM card removed from my phone, I started walking toward the station to catch a train to the coast. But halfway there, a black car pulled up and blocked my path. The man inside was wearing expensive sunglasses that covered the top half of his face, but I recognized Liam Carter instantly. His assistant got out and invited me into the car. I just stood there, frozen. I didn't move until Liam's lips curved into a smile. It was a smile, but it lacked all of his usual warmth and charm. It was cold and distant. I know your girlfriend was Isabella, he said. I'm sure you won't mind having a little chat with me. I finally moved and got into the car. We drove for over an hour out to the suburbs. When the car stopped, Liam turned to face me. He didn't say a word, but his assistant and the driver knew to get out, leaving us alone. We were the only two left in the car. He studied me through his sunglasses before speaking slowly. Actually, I heard your name a long time ago. At the rap party for Dead End Love, Isabella got drunk and fell asleep with her head in my lap. She was holding my hand, but she kept murmuring a name. Later, I was talking to the screenwriter, and I put your face to the name she was saying. But I kept hoping it was just a coincidence, someone with the same name. The moment you spoke of the hospital, I knew you were talking about her. Do you have any idea how terrified I was that you would tell her the truth? You know her better than I do. If she finds out she betrayed the man she once loved to be with me, the guilt will destroy her. Liam took off his sunglasses as he spoke. I could see the dark circles under his eyes. He didn't look so perfect up close. When I first met Isabella, she had terrible insomnia. She was always so quiet on set. It was unnerving. She wouldn't talk to anyone, but she would smile a little if the conversation turned to music. I knew I didn't understand music, that I didn't understand her, but I wanted to try. I know she fell for me because I was playing your character, because I reminded her of you. But my feelings for her were never just for a role. Like the fans say, I've never been this serious about anyone in my life. I love her every bit as much as you do. His voice grew louder with emotion as he finished. He was almost hysterical, his voice sharp as a knife, every word a fresh stab of pain. I just watched him quietly, my head spinning, a dull, throbbing ache in my temples. I had looked at the fan forums for Isabella and Liam's on-screen couple. In the best of section, there was a long, popular thread written by a fan. The post described in beautiful, emotional detail all the ways Liam had shown his love for Isabella. When they first met, Isabella was a complete unknown, while Liam was already a huge star. He wasn't afraid of what it would do to his career. He went public with their relationship without hesitation. He even helped her pay the fee to break her old contract, and was called a fool in love by the media for months. Then Isabella's fame exploded with Dead in Love, and her original songs became massive hits. Soon, she was an even bigger star than Liam, but they didn't let their busy careers pull them apart. The proposal at the concert was Isabella's answer to it all. They gave each other a sense of security and proved their love was real, even in the toxic world of showbiz. The fan ended her post by saying that if Liam and Isabella ever broke up, she would stop believing in true love. Every word of that post was a blow to the chest. Liam's love for her was epic, and it made my own history with Isabella feel small and insignificant. If I tore them apart, I would be the villain of their story. I even started to wonder if fate had arranged the car accident, had taken her memory, just so she could be free of me, her burden, and find someone better. We sat in silence. Finally, Liam put his sunglasses back on, hiding his red-rimmed eyes. I've already paid to have all that stuff scrubbed from the internet. Isabella's on location for a new movie, so she doesn't know anything about it. But if you decide you want to tell everyone, I can't stop you. I won't do anything illegal to you. I saw the way you looked at her that day. I know you still love her. That's why I was so hostile. I can apologize. I can get on my knees and beg you. I'll do whatever you want. But if you really want what's best for her, you'll keep this buried. He was right. Even if I revealed who I was, what would it change? The public would side with Liam. His love was grand and selfless. He was the one who had pulled Isabella from the darkness, and the whole world had seen it. I would just look like a rat crawling out of the sewer, and Isabella would be dragged down with me, her career ruined. She was too kind, too gentle. Knowing the truth would tear her apart. I was silent for a long time. I heard you want to get away, Liam finally said. He took a signed blank check from his wallet and placed it on my knee. I don't know where you want to go. I don't travel much myself. Just consider this a gift for me. Go somewhere, feel better, and then come back and focus on your treatment. Don't worry about the cost. I can get you the best doctors. I don't need it. I interrupted him quietly. You don't need to feel guilty or try to pay me off. I felt his breath catch in his throat. In that moment, he probably thought all was lost. But I just leaned back against the seat, exhausted, and closed my eyes. I felt utterly drained and just wanted to sleep. Several times, Liam held his fingers under my nose, as if checking to see if I was still breathing. He only seemed to relax when he felt the faint puff of air. After a long time, I finally managed to move my fingers. Can you have your driver take me somewhere? I asked. There's a place I have to go. By the time the car slowly rolled into the small town, it was late afternoon. The sunset painted the sky red, casting a golden glow over the distant mountains. Liam saw me get out and start walking without a backward glance. He hesitated for a moment, then made a move to follow me. I suddenly turned and gave him a small smile. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill myself. There's no need. I don't have much time left anyway. That place, I said, pointing to a small, red-roofed building on the top of the hill, is the orphanage where Isabella and I grew up. It's the only piece of our past we have left. And now, I'm the only one who remembers it. It's all I have left. Please don't take this from me. Liam stared at me for a second, then looked away. His voice was quiet and thick with emotion when he finally spoke. I'm sorry. I didn't answer him. It had rained in the mountains the night before, and the path was a mess of mud. I walked up the rutted dirt road, each step taking all the strength I had. I used to be strong. It was always Isabella who was the delicate one. When we were kids, our school was at the bottom of the mountain, and the orphanage was at the top. Every day, we had to leave at dawn and wouldn't get back until late at night. Every single time, when we got halfway up the mountain, Isabella would ask me to give her a piggyback ride the rest of the way. And every single time, I would smile and crouch down so she could climb on, and I'd carry her back to the orphanage day after day, year after year. I thought with my strength now, I'd collapse after 20 feet. But somehow, I pushed myself, practically crawling on my hands and knees by the end, until I reached the top. The orphanage was derelict. The lock on the gate was so rusted it broke with a single touch. I pushed the door open and followed my memory down the first-floor hallway and up the stairs to the attic. In a corner of the attic, a child's drawing was still taped to the wall. It was a picture of a big house with two stick figures standing out front. I came to the orphanage when I was just a baby. The director told me that when they found me, my whole body was red and covered in burns. They had to treat me with herbal remedies for years. The scars didn't start to fade until I was in middle school, but by then, I was too old to be adopted. Isabella was different. Every time a family came to adopt, she would hide just so she could stay with me. But whenever our friends got adopted, she would come up to this attic and cry. She wondered why other kids had parents and a home, and we had nothing. I would always find her here and make her a pinky promise. I promised that one day I would make a lot of money and buy her a big house, a home just for the two of us. I touched the old drawing and slowly sank to the floor, my tears making clean tracks in a thick layer of dust. Our first home was a tiny 300-square-foot studio apartment. It wasn't much, but it was warm and full of love. Every day when I came home from work, I could smell dinner cooking as I passed the kitchen window, and I knew Isabella would be there waiting for me. We had known each other for 20 years and been together for 7, always working toward our future. We pooled every dollar we ever earned. When we saved our first $10,000, I took the money I'd earned from my night job delivering food and bought a small diamond ring. In that tiny apartment, I proposed to her. Isabella, things are finally starting to look up at work. We'll be able to buy our own house soon. Just wait for me for one more year, okay? I promise I'll marry you properly when I've made a name for myself. She stared at the ring on her finger. The diamond was so small it barely sparkled, but to me, it shone brighter than any star. Isabella's eyes and cheeks flushed with emotion. She nodded without a moment's hesitation, tears of joy streaming down her face. I think I'll remember that moment until the day I die. I thought that after 25 years of hardship, my life was finally about to begin. But not long after that, I was laid off from my job. As I was packing up my desk, I collapsed. I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. To take care of me, Isabella quit the music job she loved and started working 3 part-time jobs a day. I suddenly remembered a night long ago when she was lying in my arms and told me a producer had said she had a great voice and the looks to match, that she should try acting. She'd laughed it off, saying she wasn't interested in the entertainment industry. But seeing her now, so radiant and confident on stage, I realized that maybe her smile back then had hidden a deep sense of regret. I had been holding her back from the very beginning, but it was okay now. She had found her family, found a handsome man who loved her, and had millions of fans who adored her. She had a future. It was a good thing that Isabella was finally on the path she was always meant for. Our lives were never supposed to intersect. I started to laugh for no reason, and as I did, tears streamed down my face, soaking the crumpled drawing in my hands. It was nearly dawn by the time I got back to the city. I didn't know how long Chloe had been waiting this time, but she was standing at the hospital entrance, just like before. She stood under the streetlight in the same white blouse I'd seen her in 2 days ago, the sleeves rolled up. Her hair was a mess, falling into her eyes. She looked like a fallen aristocrat. I knew she came from a wealthy family and was a notorious neat freak. I'd never seen her wear the same outfit twice. When she saw me, her expression flickered, and she looked like she wanted to say something but held back. In the end, she just asked quietly, "I thought you were getting away for a while. Why are you back so soon? You left your phone on your bed. Someone called for you." I took the phone and looked at the unsaved number. There was a text message. "Hello, this is Isabella. I'm sorry to bother you. I've been thinking a lot, and I really want to help you find the person you talked about. Dead End Love was such an important project for me, and maybe I'm still too invested in the story, but I want you to have a happy ending too. If you'd like, you can call me. This is my personal number." It wasn't her old number. She must have gotten a new one after the accident when she had to replace all her lost identification. I still remembered her old number. We had picked out a matching pair. As I stared at the black and white text on the screen, I could almost hear Isabella's soft voice, carefully choosing her words as she wrote the message. My eyes burned. Without thinking, I hit dial. Thankfully, it rang and rang with no answer. The hope that had risen in my chest crashed back down to earth. Chloe looked at me and gently shook her head. She took my wrist and started pulling me toward my room. She was never this talkative. There's a research team in Boston that's had a major breakthrough with your type of cancer. They've already cured a few cases. My professor and I are going there next week for a conference. It won't be long, Davis. I'll be able to cure you. And when you're better, I can. Finally, her voice started to fade. I stared at the flickering fluorescent light above her head, but I could still hear the relief and happiness in her tone. For some reason, I wanted to smile back, but the night before seemed to have drained every last bit of my energy. Slowly, Chloe's voice faded away completely. She stopped walking and turned to look at me, her eyes wide with fear and panic. I had never seen her look so out of control. I glanced down and saw that the front of my shirt was soaked in blood from my nose. Chloe and a few nurses half-carried me onto a gurney and rushed me toward the ER. So fast the world became a blur. Chloe gripped my hand tightly, her voice a fierce whisper in my ear. Davis, don't you dare fall asleep on me now. I was confused. The other night, I didn't sleep. I went hiking. I'm so tired. Suddenly, my vision cleared, and I looked right at her. Chloe, am I dying? She was standing in front of the window, blocking the morning sun, so I couldn't see her face clearly. But I thought I saw her eyes turn red. Don't be an idiot. She was always so calm and professional. It was the first time I'd ever seen her lose her composure, the first time I'd ever heard her swear. She had always been good to me, kinder than a doctor usually is to a patient. I wanted to smile at her, to ask if she had feelings for me, but the distance between our worlds felt too vast. She probably just felt sorry for me. I was completely spent. Even blinking felt like too much effort. In a haze, I could vaguely hear Chloe still talking. I could hear a phone ringing somewhere nearby, and then I heard nothing at all. Isabella had been filming all night, and by the time she wrapped, the sun was up. When she checked her phone, the first missed call she noticed was the one right above Liam's. It was from Davis. Without a second thought, Isabella called the number back. She tried 2, 3 times, but it wouldn't connect. It was only just after 6 in the morning. Maybe he was still asleep. Ever since the interview, Isabella couldn't get the image of Davis's pale, handsome face out of her mind. It was like a splinter she couldn't remove. Sometimes, even when she was looking at Liam, her thoughts would drift back to that hospital room that smelled faintly of jasmine. The role had affected her deeply. She had cried for the character just from reading the script, and it had taken her a long time to move on after filming Wrapped. That's why she wanted to help Darrell Davis find his own happy ending. Maybe if she knew Davis was happy, she could finally let go of dead-end love and move on with her own life. Since the call wouldn't go through, Isabella paused, then sent a text to Liam. He called her back instantly. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't slept all night. Are you done filming for the day? Yeah, she said. We should wrap the whole movie in a few days. Liam was silent for so long, his breathing ragged on the other end of the line, that Isabella thought she was losing the signal. Finally, he spoke, his voice trembling slightly. Isabella, I need to ask you something. When you said yes to my proposal, was it because you really love me? Or was it because you couldn't separate me from the character in Dead-End Love? Or was it just because I helped you, and you felt like you had to marry me to repay me? What's wrong? Isabella asked, confused. If I didn't love you, why would I be with you? But can you tell the difference? Do you love me, Liam Carter, or do you love the character I played? She thought the answer would be simple, but as she considered it, Isabella realized she didn't know what to say. In the end, she chose the simplest answer. I love you. Hearing that, Liam's tears turned to laughter, and after talking for a little while longer, they hung up. Isabella leaned back against her headboard and looked at the photo she kept on her nightstand. It was one of Liam's promotional shots for Dead-End Love. He had lost 15 pounds for the role. In the photo, he was sitting on a bed in an oversized hospital gown, looking so thin and fragile it seemed like he might shatter. The photographer had caught him just as the director called his name, and he was looking back over his shoulder. Right after that photo was taken, they filmed the first scene where his character was about to be wheeled into surgery, not knowing if he would survive. Isabella, who barely knew Liam at the time, had clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably. She couldn't stop crying until the director called cut and came over to comfort her. After that day, whenever she saw Liam, she felt a strange flutter in her chest, a constant, low-level fear that he might disappear at any moment. That feeling had lingered long after the movie wrapped. Isabella looked at the photo, tracing the outline of Liam's face with her finger, feeling a pang of guilt. Ever since she'd started this new film, Liam had been acting more and more insecure. She promised herself that as soon as this movie was done, she would make more time for him. A little while later, Isabella turned off the lights and tried to sleep, but she just tossed and turned. Her body was exhausted, but her mind wouldn't shut off. She felt like a tightly wound spring. She remembered a sleep app she had used years ago, back when she was struggling with depression and anxiety. She downloaded it again and started looking for some white noise to help her relax. But she accidentally tapped on the app's sleep recording function. It was a recording from 3 years ago. In it, her own voice, broken by sobs, was speaking in fits and starts. "Davis, just wait for me. I'm going to have the money soon. Davis, I'm going to get you better. Davis."